Hey everyone, Scott Laird from Laird Wellness, and I just finished watching the Game Changers movie. This is the movie that just came out on Netflix. It's all about plant-based athletes, thus the name Game Changers. Has all kinds of famous names on there. There's, vegan runners, cyclists, long-distance runners. But the surprising thing is there's vegan fighters and vegan super heavyweight lifters. And one of the people on there is Arnold Schwarzenegger, in addition to a whole bunch of doctors that I've interviewed on the Health Awakening show that we have. This is the type of stuff that, everybody's kind of new to, but this is the stuff I've been saying for years. We actually did an experiment with my daughter when she was about, 12 years old or so. And we looked to see if her intake of protein, which is what most athletes are concerned about, getting enough protein. We looked to see if she was getting enough protein and analyzed her vegan diet, exactly what she ate all day long for 3 or 4 days, something like that. And what we came up with is that she had 212% of the protein she needed as an athlete, more than she was getting as a meat-based person. So, 212% of your needed protein. That's pretty darn good on a plant-based diet. So, Game Changers. Was this a good documentary? Yes, it was excellent. Like I said, there was lots of doctors there that I talked to about the science of a plant-based diet and what it means and how it affects the arteries and how clear it can make your arteries versus eating a meat-based diet. And several of the athletes said that they felt they had more energy and they had more muscle building power on a vegan diet. Very surprising stuff. And mostly, the most surprising thing is that they all said that they felt better and they were able to compete more. That was the surprising thing. They were able to compete more because when you eat a plant-based diet, you don't have all the inflammation associated with that. Inflammation is what makes you spread out your workouts. And so with a plant-based diet, you're able to shrink those time frames and you're able to practice more often than your competitors. So in the end, you're going to be a better athlete because you have less inflammation and you're able to space those workouts closer together. That was the main thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger, as I mentioned, is also in this thing. And he says that he ate a meat-based diet for so many years. Now he does a plant-based diet. He still does eggs now and then. He just did a recent a blog or a video blog with Men's Health magazine. And he still does eggs in his smoothie and things. But mostly he's on a plant-based diet. This is a really great plant-based diet. If you're trying to convince yourself of doing something like this, watch the Game Changers movie on Netflix. And you get all kinds of recipes at GameChangersMovie.com, I think is their website. All kinds of other great information, little tidbits about what they talked about. And a really great thing that I found, one thing that stuck with me, was that they said that protein originates in the plants, which that's obvious. I've preached that for years and years and years. But the great thing that they said was that when you eat the animals are simply the middleman to getting that protein, because the protein is really in the plant food. If you think about it, all these great big animals like elephants and gorillas and cows, and what do they eat? Nothing but plants. So where do you think they get all their muscle from? And if you look at the gorillas, obviously we're genetically not that far away from them, so we can be the same. And when you see these guys, there's this one weightlifter, and he says he's never eaten meat in his whole life. Guy's probably in about his mid-30s. And he is ripped like any other bodybuilder you would see, and he's completely vegan. So this is a great documentary to watch. Now, one thing my wife, we've mentioned before, is on a keto diet. And so can you do keto as a plant-based person? Yes, you can. In fact, one thing they didn't touch on in this documentary, and I wish they would have, it was always the carbs versus protein. And this was the thing they were always fighting. And I guess that's probably the argument most people come against. Do you need carbs or do you need more protein? What they didn't touch on was the third element in that scenario is fat. What role does fat play? They touched on it a little bit when they went to the endothelial cells, which are the lining in your blood vessels. They said that fat from animal sources will cause damage to those endothelial cells, which Caldwell Esselstyn, in a recent interview with me on the Health Awakening in November, by the way, you'll see that in November, I interviewed him, and it was an awesome interview. And he actually mentioned in that interview, as well as in this movie, that fat from animal sources will damage the endothelial lining, but fat from Vegetarian sources, like from avocados, will not do the same thing. It's a different chemical makeup. Very interesting stuff. Still fat, still good for you. You still need it, but it depends on where you get it from. And that same thing goes for carbs and for protein as well. Lots of different protein sources you can get, tempeh, tofu, you can get them from beans and lentils, all kinds of different sources. There's no shortage. And in fact, if you have more protein than you need in a sitting, it's going to just turn to fat anyway. So you don't need a whole lot of protein. You don't want a whole lot of protein. So eating lean and eating smart is the way to do it. Watch the Game Changers movie. I love it. GameChangersMovie.com, or you can catch it on Netflix. And remember to see my interview with Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. This is the guy who helped President Bill Clinton reverse his heart disease. Personally, we just went alongside him and taught him everything he knows. This is Caldwell Esselstyn on the Health Awakening Show in November. Watch it at healthawakening.tv, and we'll see you next time on Laird Wellness.